section we're covering is just a little bit more around the whole sort of return to travel and what's happening in the world with respect of digital health passports, vaccination requirements. What are we doing at Meon to support our customers? So hopefully in a few moments we'll have the slides available. Perfect, thank you, Andrew. Okay, so next slide, please. And the next one. Thank you. So if we bring it all up. So the way I'm going to come at this today is I'm going to basically, I know there's going to be varying degrees of knowledge. So some of our customers have had essential travel and have been traveling throughout the pandemic. And I know there's other customers and clients on here who have openly said that travel's not even a consideration at the moment, and they're probably not going to look to do anything until later on in the year. So I'm going to come at this from a perspective that we all know nothing. So I'm going to start at the very, very beginning. So apologies, you've probably seen all of this in the press before, but I do want to make sure I square this off. And I think it's the reason for doing this is important because a lot of what we are having to deal with is government regulation. So to that end, it's very much fact-based. The rules are the rules. Although the rules can be complex and there can be exemptions built into them, it is a fact-based topic we're talking about. So I'm going to try and keep sort of personal opinion and subjecture out of what I'm talking about. But I just do want to cover off the basics just to make sure everyone in this session fully understands what's happening at the moment. And there are a few curveballs which I'm going to highlight for you as well. So we're all very familiar with the traffic light system. You probably have had to been on a different planet not to know anything about this because it's permanently in the press at the moment, very, very relevant for the 17th of May. So we all know that there's the red, amber and green conditions associated to that. The requirements for if you're traveling to a red country, obviously you need to complete your PCR testing prior to departure, and then upon return you're staying in a quarantine hotel, government approved quarantine hotel for 10 days with further PCR testing on days 2 and 8 prior to your release. With respect of amber, again, PCR testing prior to departure, there is then the requirement to self-isolate for 10 days, again with testing on days 2 and 8, but just to make everyone aware, you are still allowed to use the test to release scheme on day 5. So although the self-isolation is specified for 10 days, if you fulfill the requirements of test to release, actually that the isolation ends early on day 5. So that's just something to be very aware of if you're not already aware. It's not the full 10 days necessarily that you need to self-isolate for. Within the green category, again, testing prior to departure, testing on or before day 2 of return. And obviously they're saying there's no need to self-isolate or quarantine. However, should a test result come back positive, then of course you will need to self-isolate in accordance with current regulations. 2 sort of things to highlight with regards to the traffic light system that aren't so openly publicised. The fact that although the detail given is relating to UK requirements or English requirements at the moment, it's really important to still remember that the regulation pertinent to the destination that you're travelling to or the airline that you're travelling with will need to be considered. So a key thing there is that there's a large number of countries that are still requiring you to have a negative test prior to the return flight, and that's something that you would need to arrange to have locally. So different destinations, different airlines have different rules, and of course we advise those as part of the booking process. So it's not just the UK rules that need to be considered, it's the rules for the destination that you're travelling to as well. In addition to that, they have publicised that from 11:59 on the 16th of May, you no longer have to complete the declaration to travel form. However, passenger locator forms will still be required. Those are completed online. We'll share full detail on this after the session, and we have been from an operational perspective when clients have been making bookings with us. But I think it's important to remember that that is still a requirement. That documentation is not going away. If you're a regular traveller, you can create an account, which makes it simpler to fill those forms out. You don't need to complete the whole process each time. So again, we'll share detail on this. Next slide, please, Andrew. Green to go. Obviously, the rules change from 1 minute past midnight, 17th of May. Non-essential overseas travel can recommence, and also overnight UK stays are going to be permitted, so hotels are reopening. So we say green to go. We were hopeful that perhaps there would be more countries on the green list. The countries that are on there at the moment are fairly limited. They're detailed on the screen. What's quite interesting again, though, is that we do need to consider the conditions that are pertinent to the destination. So, for example, Australia and New Zealand, it's great that they're on the green list, but they're not currently letting people into the country. So that's just something you need to sort of factor in when you're thinking about travel. The government has committed to reviewing the traffic light system, or the lists, every 3 weeks. That has been interpreted differently by different parties. We believe that the first review is going to be on the 7th of June. So it's actually 3 weeks from travel recommencing on the 16th of May. And as I've said there, the declaration form for international travel will no longer be required, but the actual, the other forms will still be needed. Next slide, please, Andrew. So hopefully that covers off the traffic light system. As again, it's, as I said, it is government regulation. We don't get given any extra information. We don't get given any extra insight. We do have to work with fact. We don't want to make projections. It will be lovely to be able to say to you that, you know, from the 7th of June, you're going to be able to travel to the US or to Spain or to wherever perhaps you need to go to. We don't have that knowledge. The travel industry is informed at the same time as the general public as to what changes are occurring. With respect to digital health passports, again, this is something that's extremely new for everybody. Obviously, during the pandemic, a large number of technology companies have developed solutions, either sort of in response to specific challenges or in anticipation of what may happen within the marketplace. The more common apps that we're hearing about, obviously the IATA Travel Pass, the Clear Health Pass, and also Verify, which is the application that British Airways is now using. Now, one of the challenges with the applications that most airlines are using at the moment is that actually they're only in place to record detail on the test results that you've had. And that works very well at the moment because most countries are interested in that. They're interested in the status of your tests and not really the status of your sort of your vaccinations. The government, of course, is talking about the NHS app that is coming. That sort of flips the dynamic slightly because the NHS app initially is only going to show your vaccination status and will not be showing test results. So it's likely, well, almost certain that from the 17th of May, it may be a combination of apps that you're going to be using. Now, these firms are innovating very quickly. They will be looking for opportunities to integrate. The NHS app has already said that they're looking at including testing. The IATA Travel Pass does include testing already. And also within the EU, they are proposing the whole sort of the green card status scheme as well. So hopefully in the coming months, your vaccination status will be more of a consideration with respect of your ability to travel. So I think it's going to be a combination. Have you been vaccinated? That may make travel easier. Or have you had the tests if you haven't been fortunate enough to have the vaccine yet? So at the moment, innovation is happening. Integration needs to happen. And as with everything COVID related, it's a journey. Things are evolving very, very quickly. Fortunately, private innovation is keeping pace. And as soon as we can give you anything more concrete, we will provide more detail. So watch this space. And anything that's currently relevant, i.e. processes relating to specific airlines, for example, with BA, uploading your test results into the Verify app, we will provide that advice as part of our sort of our operational setup at time of booking for you. Next slide, please, Andy. Thank you. So with respect of how we're helping customers, it's been an interesting 14 months. Obviously, prior to the pandemic, travel management companies essentially didn't provide health-related advice. That was something that typically we would refer travellers or organisations to healthcare providers to provide information. That dynamic has changed substantially. It's probably for us as a business and for us as an industry, the introduction of having to provide COVID-related advice has probably been the biggest change operationally, perhaps since the introduction of online booking technologies. It's a fundamental shift for us as a business and us for as an industry. Early on, a lot of work was being done to try and find the best sources of information. Again, that's been an evolution. Systems that we were using towards the start of the pandemic have been superseded. In the simplest of terms, at this point in time, our operational team are using Thematic 2, which is an IATA product to provide advice on COVID-related travel requirements. Now, the really positive thing about that system, because it's an IATA product, it's the same system that's being used by airlines and airports. So we believe at this point in time, it's the most consistent source of information. To supplement that, we are also checking .gov.uk as a site, and also on occasion we're having to look at individual country sources as well. So this does add a whole level of complexity to the booking process. It's advice that we weren't historically having to give, but it is something that we are, of course, now having to do. As with the sort of the digital health passports, the technology is developing. In the main part, at the moment, these sources are standalone. There's a lot of work going on to try and integrate them into the actual booking process. So things like providing links on itineraries to allow you to, or allow your travellers to check the latest advice themselves, integration of information into online booking tools. All of this type of research and development is happening at the moment as we speak, and hopefully it will support the traveller journey and make it easier for us to be able to provide information and for your travellers to be able to access the information moving forwards, but more importantly, to keep abreast of any changes that occur between the initial booking being made and travel commencing. Because I think that's one of the sort of the big challenges that the world of travel has faced, is the fact that the advice that we perhaps give today may be superseded in the coming days, and by the time someone goes on their trip, a whole new set of rules may be in place. So again, that's something we're actively monitoring, and again, Thematic 2 as a product allows us to provide access to that information as we get closer to the trip commencing. So if anything does change, it can be highlighted. I think the other piece on it is that obviously the work we're doing, the COVID advice, we have taken a commercial decision that it's an inclusive part of the service that we're offering. We are looking to streamline that. We are looking to make sure it's sort of as easy to give as possible, to make sure our staff can remain as productive to look after you and offer the best service possible. But again, it's a journey, and things that like the vaccines, which are rolled out extremely quickly, the technology is doing the same thing. So I'm sure if we sit here in 3 months' time, hopefully the way in which we're approaching this will be a lot more integrated into the sort of the service offering. Next slide, please, Andrew. So again, we've touched upon the fact that sort of at the moment, vaccination status isn't really a key requirement for travel. No doubt it will be in the coming months, but at this point in time, the key thing that countries are interested in is negative tests. So interestingly, I went online the other day just to see exactly how many companies that are out there that can assist with this. And if you actually go again on .gov.uk, there's now over 500 government-approved testing companies to choose from. I think everyone's been trying to be ultra helpful. Again, a vast majority of airlines now, if you go onto their websites, they have partnerships in place to provide support in this area. And again, more recently, we have seen an initial price drop. So I think that it was in the press a few weeks ago that the cost of testing was halved from 120 to 60. Still potentially prohibitive for certain travellers. But what we have seen is that in response to the traffic light systems, a number of the firms that are offering testing are tailoring the packages that they offer depending on the traffic light status of the destination that you're visiting. So they're actually providing the right testing package to meet the requirements for the location. So again, that's something that will no doubt evolve. With regards to how can Meon help, we do have a partnership with Randox Health. So if you do need access to testing, we can send you the detail on how you can get access to their packages. So again, they are providing the traffic light packages or the single tests. And that's something, again, at an operational level, we can provide further detail on if it's required and you don't already have it covered. One thing that we do expect to see is we hope that the price is going to come down further as travel volumes increase. I think it's naturally, like anything in life, the more demand there is, hopefully the price should come down in response to that to cater for the demand that's out there. So from the 17th of May, fingers crossed, it won't be so price prohibitive for travellers. Next slide, please. Thank you. So just to close, and I do realise that I've flown through this to try and get us back on track, but I think just to give some helpful hints and tips. So use your travel management company, book with Meon, because part of what we're doing is providing you with that full overview of requirements. As I said, it would be very easy just to look at the UK requirements and forget about the fact that actually the destination you're travelling to has a whole set of rules as well. We cover both bases for you and more. Suppliers at the moment, historically, airline tickets may have been restricted or hotels may have been difficult to change. The suppliers out there at the moment are keen to get bookings going again. There are some wonderful airfares and hotel rates available. There's a lot of flexibility as well. So a lot of airlines are permitting changes. Some of them are offering it for free, and they are offering refunds if circumstances change. Again, operationally, when we make bookings, we advise the full rules for the tickets or hotel being purchased. But if you know you've got to go on that trip, it may be worth looking now to see if you can take advantage of some of these wonderful fares and hotel rates that are out there. If it's a trip that you know you've definitely got to do, I'd recommend looking at it. We do think, again, there's the potential that once the world does get going again, the airlines and hotels will need to maximise the revenues that are coming in, and we might actually see pricing exceeding historic levels. As I've said before, we're using the .gov.uk website and also the thematic systems. We will provide access to the thematic link, which in turn allows your travellers to check the latest requirements up until the point of departure. So check those links, stay informed. We'll give you the information, but I think that the individual travellers do need to try and digest that information and keep abreast of it themselves as well. There does need to be some responsibility taken. I think we touched upon this earlier with regards to on Nigel's presentation about immigration and queues. Again, not only because of that, but we're hearing in the news the 6-hour waits at Heathrow, potentially flights being diverted to other EU destinations. I sincerely hope that that doesn't happen, but I do think we now need to leave extra time, both when planning travel. It's not quick process. There are extra considerations that need to be made, but also when traveling as well. So gone, unfortunately, are the days of just being able to jump on a plane at London City with a 10-minute check-in, land in your destination, jump straight in a taxi to a meeting. It's not that simple at the moment. I'm sure all of you will agree we can't wait for those days to return, and hopefully we'll get there. But at the moment, allow extra time. And finally, probably the single most useful thing I can say is be prepared for change. The situation is rapidly changing in lots of different countries. If we choose India, for example, up until a couple of weeks ago, people were traveling into India. The variant in India becomes of significant concern. All of a sudden, it jumps to the red list, and effectively all but essential travel stops. Like last summer, where people sort of did get to travel for leisure or for business, where the rules were relaxed. We saw last year that things could change very, very quickly. We do believe the government is going to sort of try and give more notice where possible, hence the sort of on the traffic light system, they are going to put review status on certain countries. So there will be the green watch list. Green destinations won't automatically jump to amber necessarily, but they may be put on the watch. So just to be aware that things could change. So be prepared for change, and remember that we're here 24/7 to help you. I think that's the most important thing. If there's anything you're unsure of, if you need help at any point, day or night, please get in contact with us, and we'll do our utmost to help you resolve any issues or provide any advice that you need. Thank you. So do we have any questions before we move on to sort of closing remarks? I think I can see a couple have come in. So again, from Michaela, one of our biggest issues in planning has been booking pre-departure PCR tests before returning to the UK. Based on that one, how many major UK airports are progressing towards the provision of quick turnaround within 4 hours PCR testing, as well as the already supplied NAT testing? Two, what is the easiest way to locate reputable PCR testing providers overseas? I think two good questions. And interestingly, I don't know if anyone's seen this morning, British Airways have announced that they're trialling an antigen test on their staff that has a 25-second turnaround time to provide positive results. But at the moment, obviously for the UK, it is PCR testing. .gov.uk is a good source to find those companies. Randox Health, who we're working with, are extremely reputable and well known. And again, depending on the destinations that you're going to, obviously, potentially different types of testing is permissible. Again, we provide that advice as to what types of tests you can do as part of the sort of the booking process. And again, we will look as part of the information following this session to try and provide access to perhaps companies that can provide assistance on an international basis. So that's something we'll circle back to you on. Point two, I think we've covered that. What's the easiest way to locate reputable PCR testing providers overseas? Yes, we'll circle back on that one. The next question is from Hayley. She's asked, is it correct that you can only travel to green country list for leisure purposes? So as I understand it, obviously there's the government advice with respect of the traffic light system, and then there's further sort of information that is available through the FCO. And essentially the FCO is saying that you can travel to, taking the FCO advice, travel is permissible to countries outside of the green list on leisure purposes. However, you do need to follow the traffic light process that's been specified by the government. Now, of course, again, this is something that was in the news yesterday. EasyJet and I believe Jet2 have launched their summer programs. They will be commencing flights to Spain and Greece from the 17th of May. So you are allowed to travel, but you do then need to, of course, comply with the traffic light regulations that have been specified. So if you're happy to sort of self-isolate, for 10 days or 5 days if you do the test to release scheme. If you're happy to do that, then you're perfectly at liberty to go on that sort of Spanish holiday as soon as you want to. One final question that's come in from Craig. He's put, I believe our agent Healthwatch is currently working with the government and many hotels in Greece to provide COVID testing. And again, I suspect that's something that the tour operators will do. Of course, they want to get people traveling again, and it's in their best interest. Like the airlines have promoted the sort of the PCR tests, one suspects that tour operators will try and factor in a way that should you book a package with them, they will then provide access to any sort of pre-return testing that is required in the destination that you're traveling to or returning from. Okay. So what are the rules for self-isolation when it comes back from orange list countries? That's come in for Kathy. The rules are basically the same as they've been throughout the sort of the pandemic, although the requirement has moved from 14 days down to 10 days. Again, full details available on .gov.uk. But essentially, the individual or individuals that have travelled do need to stay in their home or specified destination for the 10 days after the return from their trip. Again, the government has specified as part of the traffic light system that they're to complete the tests on day 2 and day 8. Obviously, if a positive result then comes back, that isolation may be extended. Again, you would need to check the relevant rules on .gov.uk. Of course, as I've specified, there is the test to release scheme, and again, we're going to be providing further detail on this, as well as the links, the relevant links to the government website, which essentially could cut that self-isolation time down from 10 days to 5 days. Okay. Okay, I think we just had a question come in, a point coming from Nicole from Global Excel Management. So she said Global Excel Management can also provide this service in most countries in Europe, including Greece, Cyprus, Spain, and Turkey as our core destination countries. Okay, so thanks. Nicole, perhaps we'll have a conversation offline after the session. If there's something that you can support sort of our customers with, we'd be very interested in having that conversation. Okay, any final questions? Perfect. So I'm gonna hand over now to James Beagrie, our Managing Director and Founder, for some closing comments. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Julian. That's really kind of you, much appreciated. And everybody, it's been a great attendance and participation today. Thank you. We've had clients and friends and suppliers. We're pretty much all clients from all over Europe and beyond today. It's been, I think that's a testimony to the relevance and the quality of the presentations and the thought leadership of the partners that we've had speaking today. Don't forget, this is all going to form part of a white paper and follow-up documentation afterwards. Our counsel is there always for you as well. But also, in addition to that, we can send out copies of the presentation. We want to encourage you to actively copy and steal shamelessly any content that we've provided here that you can use within your own organizations and beyond, to your own benefit as well. So please do keep in touch. We'll send everything out to you and you can use that at your liberty. Thank you to Nico, Nigel, Carolyn, great presentations, much appreciated. And thank you also for my team, for Andrew Jones and James Gent on the marketing and the digital team putting it together, Emma Gray out of Repats, who's been doing sales and helping support the sales team and ringing around everybody as well. Julian Munsey, new sales director, only started in January, so hasn't he hit the ground running? So really good for his support. So I'm very proud of my own team in this regard for everything that we've done today. Thank you also for your participation and your support and your encouraging noises. And the issues here that have been raised today are all about, at the end of the day, keeping on top of and abreast of a shifting landscape of knowledge and reference by which you can rely upon us to do this for you and to lend you the support that you need. So the most important thing I can say in signing off is just to say thank you, everybody, for your participation. Thank you for your custom. Thank you for your support. We're all family here. And most importantly, travel safe. Bye.